Oh, no.
Hello, and welcome to the Field Guides. I'm Bill, and I'm here with Steve. Good afternoon, Steve.
Good afternoon, Bill.
What we're going to do today
Is walk through a stream.
That's right. We just found some seriously deep puddles buried under the snow.
Yeah, I wonder if they could hear that.
Well, what we're going to do today, and over the course of many future episodes, is give you the idea of what it's like to be in the woods, in the field, and on the trail. Each month, we pick a natural history topic, research the science behind that topic, and then take you out into the field and share with you everything that we've learned. And today, we got to stop. And I want to say, Happy New Year, Steve.
Oh, Happy New Year. Bill and I have not seen each other in a very long time.
I actually think the last time we saw each other was when we recorded the last episode.
Oh my God, that was so long ago now.
The autumn episode.
Yeah, wow.
So that's
Holy
before
cow.
Thanksgiving. It's been a couple months.
Yeah, well,
So-
good to see you.
Good to see you too. Good holidays?
Yeah, everything was good. I have a new nephew, so that was exciting.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Nice. No,
Oh, and another one on the way.
really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
congratulations. Wow. An uncle twice over. Good for you.
Yeah.
You're going to be the cool uncle.
Yeah, that's the great hope, but I don't know.
All right, well, the last time we did record in November, I actually had a gift for you, and I forgot to bring it.
Yeah.
So this can count as a Christmas gift,
Okay.
I guess. So it's actually something I picked up in Iceland.
Whoa.
So first, there's a pamphlet to go with it, and you need to describe this to people.
Oh gosh, okay. It's the Icelandic phallological, right? Phallological
That's right.
museum, a unique collection, the only one of its kind in the world.
And then describe the logo there.
Oh my God. Okay. So phallological. Okay, I get it. So the logo, it kind of. I'm assuming maybe it's some type of misshapen
It's
rose or something, but how do I say what it looks like? I mean,
It looks like a penis.
It looks like, yeah, just
We can
like
say
a
that.
and balls.
I don't know if we can say that. So this was in Iceland. This is the Penis Museum.
Oh my God.
And it's all very scientific.
Oh,
They have
wait a
over
second.
400 examples, 400 specimens. Right?
So I'm looking on the back, and they have, so instead of like a wall-mounted deer head, they have wall-mounted phalluses.
That's right.
Oh my God.
It was quite an experience.
Yeah.
My wife and daughter enjoyed it immensely.
Oh,
but,
God.
but that's not all. So I did get you a tin of mints from the Phallological Museum.
Thank you so much.
They may be phallus shaped. I'm not sure.
Well, I will say that they are still good until May, MEI of 2021.
That's
so.
Icelandic. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Bill.
You're welcome.
You shouldn't have. No, seriously.
So, folks, if you do make it to Iceland sometime, check out the Phallological Museum in Reykjavik.
Yeah.
Well worth it. I've never been to a museum like that before.
Yeah. That's amazing.
And I did say that, the displays are chiefly very scientific, but once you get into the gift shop, their sense of humor really comes out.
Nice.
With that being said, I did have to start this episode with a warning. We probably should have done it before that. For anybody listening with kids out there, this episode does...
A little late,
I know.
honestly.
I am late. But if you haven't turned it off yet, we will delve further into subjects that acknowledge sex and sex between animals. Maybe not humans so much, but a little bit.
Non-human animals, but
This is true, non-human
Okay.
animals. Thank you for that. All right, so this episode came out of the last episode we did, the autumn episode.
Yeah.
Because in that, we talked about diapause and we touched on delayed implantation. And after I finished that episode, I just happened to do some reading on that because it interests me. And it actually just developed into this episode. Because I figured, even though you said you were going to do a December episode, that probably wouldn't...
and this is what makes us such good co-hosts, is that you know when I can't deliver. But it's not like you can make up for it for me.
I'm all right.
So we missed it.
I'm
Yeah.
all right with that.
Yeah, and I apologize. So
okay.
actually, can I speak on that just very briefly?
Oh, yeah, no, go ahead.
Yeah, so this is honestly just going to be an excuse, I guess. When we first started the field guides, the reason that we decided to do it, at least on my side, was that I was in a master's program that I hated. And I knew I just wanted to, get my credit hours, get the grades and everything, and then get out of there. And then hopefully find a job somewhere. But then I ended up going back to school. And now I find myself in another lab as a PhD student. And I love the work I'm doing. And I'm so busy all the time that I keep having these great hopes of getting my button gear and doing the research on an episode. But it's like every time I sit down and I'm like,
You get sucked into
ooh,
Facebook.
No. Every time I sit down and I'm like, I'm going to research a topic for the field guides. I'm like, oh, but there is that paper I could be reading right now. And it's tough because especially when you're in a master's or a PhD, it kind of comes home with you.
Sure.
And it's not like you clock out for the day and
It's not a regular job.
yeah, and you can actually never do too much. The only thing you could do is not enough.
It's like teaching.
Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah.
It's you can prepare forever, and you're never going to have enough. So
But I can back you up on this because, folks, there's been at least 2 times since we recorded the last episode that we invited you out or over for a gathering. Matt, our friend Matt from Indefensive Plants and Sarah, they came into town.
Yeah.
First time in a year, and they came over, and Steve was a no-show.
And where was I? What was I doing?
I don't know. You said you couldn't do it. You just said you had stuff going on. You might have been, I don't know, out of town or something. But
I was in DC, and then this whole last week I was out of town because I was presenting at a conference in San Diego. So
But you did.
everything's been so busy. I've been out of town so much recently,
But you did miss the Christmas bird count because you overslept.
that one was totally on me. That was 100% on me. Yeah,
That's
that was
all right.
awful. I felt really bad about missing that because and guys, if I know it's too late for this year, but if you haven't done the Christmas bird count, or maybe you haven't heard of it even from the podcast or anything, definitely try to look into it for next year because I don't want to miss it again. It's definitely one of the highlights of my year. It's just a lot of fun to drive around during the winter, look for birds.
Yeah. National Audubon Society, they do run Christmas counts the 2 weeks before and after Christmas each year. All birding levels are welcome, whether you're experienced or not. It's just a great way to spend a winter day doing something to help birds.
Oh, and that being said, and I think you guys figured this out on your own, but I have no idea what Bill's going to talk about.
That's right.
From the sounds of it, it sounds like something about delayed implantation,
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
something about, I'm guessing, black bears or something. I don't.
Very
That's my
good.
guess. Yeah.
Wow, you read my mind.
Well, I mean, that episode we talked about black bears and delayed implantation. I don't know other animals that do that.
But before we get into it, I will say one more thing. I think we can't make excuses anymore for being late.
Yeah.
And folks, if you're a regular listener, you just got to accept that the new normal for the field guides is we will get out episodes as often as we can.
Yeah, and anyone who's supporting us, in fact, we've gotten many new supporters since this little
Yeah,
hiatus,
thanks.
this unplanned hiatus that we took. We have more than we've ever had before, and we've lost a few people along the way, and we totally understand.
Yeah.
But we want to thank everyone who's supporting us, and we're going to do the best we can to keep putting out a quality
Episodes.
product
Yeah.
for you guys.
Quality
and,
product and as often as we possibly can.
And that's part of it, is that there so much research goes into each episode that it's so hard to be like, all right, time to do the episode.
Right.
It takes so much preparation time, and it's really exhausting mentally. but we love doing it. It's really the
do.
best thing. So
And thank you, folks, that have stuck with us. So
Yeah.
thanks for being patient.
all right.
Okay, so as I said in the last episode, we talked a little bit about delayed implantation, and it piqued my interest. So just to talk about delayed implantation, if you didn't listen to that last episode. For example, you've heard of the long-tailed weasel, Steve, right?
Isn't it called something else? Oh no,
Oh,
no.
You're thinking of the short-tailed weasel, is also called the ermine.
That's what. Okay, but
right.
it's just a type of weasel, long-tailed weasel. I like the weasels.
Do you know why it's called an ermine?
No, I don't know that name.
Because no one's going to buy a weasel coat.
That's so funny.
I don't know if that's true or not, but
Yeah,
that's what I was taught.
yeah. I also.
It's all marketing.
So unless I'm just completely wrong about this, my joke is gonna totally not work at all. But for years now, I've been calling skunks shit weasels. Right? They're weasels, right? Am I wrong about
They
that?
are.
Okay, yeah. So
They are weasels.
from now on, everyone, we will lovingly talk about skunks as shit weasels.
Nice. All right, now we've
Did we have
lost
to bleep all that out?
We've lost all the parents. No. I was at a fundraising dinner a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And for our friends at Earth Spirit.
Okay.
And someone came up to me and said, you're Bill Michalik from the Field Guides, right? And I'm like, oh, yeah. Thanks for listening. And we talked a little bit. And she said, oh, my son, he's 9 years old. We listen to all the episodes together. And in the back of my head, I'm thinking, really? There's some stuff in there that's not appropriate.
I mean, but in terms of the language, we don't need to do it, but we do bleep things out when we have to. And then, no, but we do talk about, like, we make some crude jokes from time to time. Yeah.
We do. But,
Yeah.
hey, I applaud her for, diving in.
Yeah. I don't think we're so bad. We're not like shock jocks or anything.
I don't think so. Not
No,
yet.
I don't think so.
All right, so the long-tailed weasel. After mating, implantation of the fertilized egg,
Wait, what does this thing look like?
long-tailed weasel?
I'm just trying to picture it.
So it's just like the ermine, it's just slightly larger. I'm going to get the size
yeah,
wrong.
but I'm saying, what about a listener that doesn't know what an ermine looks like?
That's true. Okay. So think of a very slender-bodied, brown weasel. Like a ferret.
You know, with their weasel-like, for sure.
Like a
and,
ferret.
Their tail,
A ferret
long, I would say.
Usually brown. The ermine's the one that changes color to white in the wintertime.
Yeah.
But as far as I know, the long-tailed weasel does not.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Just shut up now so I can
How
finish.
much like minks do they look like?
They're smaller.
Okay.
All right. Back to what I was trying to say about the long-tailed weasel.
Okay.
So after mating, the implantation of the fertilized egg is delayed for 7 to 9 months.
Holy cow.
I mean, that's a long time. And gestation lasts an additional 9.5 months.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I don't know if you looked into this, but can it happen sooner, or is it an obligate waiting period?
Yeah,
Does
I
it
don't
have
know.
to wait? No.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
And the female little brown bat, Myotis lucifugus,
Ooh.
after mating, it stores the sperm to be used later. So instead of fertilization within a few days, it occurs months later. So in today's episode, what I'm going to do is we're going to look at these type of delays. They're collectively known as reproductive delays.
Okay.
And why do they occur? I mean, why do you think they might occur?
Huh. It's so weird to like disengage the act of mating with implantation.
Right.
So obviously it has to have something to do with resource allocation or so. I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think why would you not want to give birth near the time? Oh, wait a second. Maybe it's because you want to give birth when you become, because obviously it takes a while for the development, right? And you probably want them to be born maybe in the most fruitful season. So maybe they delay it so when they're actually born, it's in a very productive time of the year.
Right. So typically you're going to want to give your young the maximum amount of time possible to grow, get healthy before the winter sets in again.
Okay.
Right.
So let's say if you're
dealing with winter,
like if you mated in, let's say, June or something, I don't know, I'm just making it up.
Yeah.
You probably wouldn't want the young to be born until maybe, like, let's say in this area, like the following spring or something, just so there's plenty of food to go around or whatever.
Right.
Or,
And honestly,
that's my guess. That's just that's what I'm wondering.
There's not a clear answer to that.
Okay.
Because it's going to be different for the different species that do this.
And what they rely on.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can group some together, obviously.
Right.
But there's still a lot of questions about it as well. And I think that's why it's a topic that's fruitful for us to look at.
Yeah, like, for example, I only have questions. I know nothing about this.
So today we're going to cover the basics of reproductive delays in mammals.
Okay.
And then we're going to look specifically at bears. And I picked that because right now, today is January 19th.
Yeah.
We are at the most probable point that black bears here in the Northeast, but really continent-wide, are having young.
Oh, right, because they have the young. The female bears have young while they're still hibernating, right?
Yes, the male bears don't have any.
What? I told you I didn't know anything about this. So.
All right, so we're going to look specifically at bears, like I said, but not only at the reproductive delays, but also just some fascinating points about their reproductive cycle. I learned a lot that I didn't know about them. All right? Now,
Like, what position do they like?
Beautiful.
Yeah, you know what? Before you go on, I'm just kind of noticing how nice it is around us.
Why don't we talk to people about
Yeah.
where we are? So we are at the Hampton Brook Wildlife Management Area. This is a New York State managed piece of forest. It's relatively new. We've actually been here once before.
Yeah.
But we have, as in most places we go to around here, second growth forest, about half an hour southeast of Buffalo. And what we're seeing around us, it's mostly second growth hardwoods. So we got a lot of maple, a lot of beech. There are some hemlocks mixed in here.
Yeah,
But-
and actually some pretty good sized hemlocks, but you could tell they're definitely being outcompeted in a few cases.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the maples over there definitely are growing taller than the one anyway.
And we should say that we are in the midst of really our first big lake effect snowstorm of this winter, wouldn't you say?
It's been disturbingly warm this winter and disturbingly snowless. So what is it now? It's just about the 20th of January, and we really haven't had any snow in Buffalo.
Any significant snow.
Yeah. We had some snow early on, but it went away and it was gone for a long
It all went
time.
away very quickly.
Yeah,
we've definitely had more days without snow than with.
Yeah, when I was right before heading out to San Diego, I was like, oh, it's going to be so nice not having to wear a hoodie. The day before I left, I was in a hoodie in Buffalo because it was like 50 degrees.
Yeah.
And I was like, what's going on?
It's a little alarming.
Why is Buffalo so warm right now?
But we actually changed our recording site because the roads were so bad that I didn't want a chance driving out to Franklin Gulf where you wanted to go.
Yeah, it's not the worst weather in the world, but it's like the first snow, and that's always a problem.
Yeah. But it is beautiful. I'm glad we picked this day to record.
Yeah, and it's that snow that sticks really good, so all the trees just have one whole side that's just loaded with snow.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool. Like, you look to one side of us, and you only see white, and then you look in the exact opposite direction, it's just trunks without snow. But if we went on the other side of those trees, it would all be white again.
We could see the predominant wind direction.
Yeah, right.
So we're going to record this morning. It's mid-afternoon right now, but this morning I called Steve and I'm like, why don't we hold off? Because there were 20-mile-an-hour winds gusting to 50.
Oh, yeah. And now it's, I don't think we're picking up any wind on the mic. It seems pretty nice right now.
Yeah, we're in the woods, and that's giving us a decent amount of protection.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into it. The paper I'm going to look at first, it's from 2014, and it was just titled Reproductive Delays in Mammals, and this was in Biological Reviews. So I figure a good spot to begin is, what exactly is a reproductive delay? And these can be classified as any pause in reproduction that occurs at one of 3 times. It can happen between mating and fertilization. So that's what we talked about with the bat a moment ago. It saves the sperm before fertilization happens.
Right.
So that can be called delayed fertilization. It can also be something called cryptic female choice, which we'll talk about a little later on. So just kind of put a pin in that.
Oh.
Female choice that you really can't see it's going on.
I have a guess about that.
What do you think it is?
Well, this is what I was going to guess, because I saw some, I don't know, Discovery Channel specials or BBC specials or something where, like, a female can be mated with, and then they can actually, like, eject, like, get rid of the sperm.
Yeah,
and then maybe a more favorable mate could come, and she's like,
crazy.
I'm more into this one.
Crazy. So we'll get into that more.
Yeah.
The second time these delays can happen is between fertilization and implantation. And that's what we talked about with the weasel. The egg does meet the sperm, but it doesn't get implanted into the uterus right away.
Right.
And that's usually called delayed implantation. But then you can also have it take place after an embryo has implanted. So you could have delayed development.
Oh, okay.
Right,
so all 3 stages that we've talked about so far can have these checkpoints that they stop at.
Right. And all the animals that we talk about could have reproductive delays at one of these times, at 2 of these times, or at all of these times. It really depends on the species.
And then I would say the most important one that we haven't talked about, and it's actually the most... it's the most effective, is actually just celibacy in general.
That's right. That's right. It's worth the wait.
Yeah.
I was actually thinking of calling the episode that.
It's worth the wait.
All right, so I do want to point out again, though, that we are focusing on mammals here. That's really going to be the bulk of this. This is just such a huge topic.
Sure.
It just made sense to focus on mammals.
I was so hoping you were going to go into Hamamelis virginiana.
Trees?
Yeah, no, the witch hazel.
Why?
Remember it has the delayed development?
Oh, that's right.
Listen to our witch hazel episode, guys.
There you go.
I think it's a good one.
We already covered that.
Yeah.
All right, so
I see the bias, though. So.
the first documentation of this type of delay in mammals, it was in roe deer in 1843.
Oh, roe deer. Where are those?
As far as I know, they're in Europe.
Okay.
I didn't look. So.
No, I don't know anything about deer, but it sounded so familiar that it was either in a study I read or I don't know. But I never saw one in person.
So these guys, they do delay implantation for 4 to 5 months after fertilization. We now know of over 130 mammal species that exhibit some type of delay.
And I'm asking you questions like you're an encyclopedia, and it doesn't make any sense. I was about to say, and how many mammal species are there? Like, does this make up like a small percentage or a large percentage? Like, I just want to know how rare or how common this is.
I would say,
like, what's 140? I don't know how many mammals.
I'm going to give you some context.
Sure.
All right. So there's 27 mammalian orders.
Okay.
All right. Only 9 are known to exhibit reproductive delays.
Okay.
All right. So, and then within those 9 orders, obviously not all of the members are going to have delays. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the names of those orders.
Yeah.
And you're going to try and see if you can figure out what they are.
Perfect. Mammal orders.
Yes.
The thing that I've spent so much time working on.
The first one is
Okay.
the Diptrotodontia.
Oh, crap.
Get out of here. You know that?
No, tell me.
Marsupial mammals.
Crap. I feel like I definitely had heard that before. But okay, let's go.
The Dasyuromorphia.
Nope.
That's the carnivorous marsupials.
Oh, okay.
Which I had to look that up. Do you know
Yeah.
what one of the carnivorous marsupials is?
No.
The Tasmanian devil.
Oh, no way. Okay.
All right? And then you have the Eulipotaphyta.
Nope.
Those are moles, shrews, and hedgehogs.
Nice.
And I think the best fact that I came across in researching this episode is the Eulipotaphyta. That means truly fat and blind.
Nice.
Then there's the Cingulata. Those are the New World placental mammals, like the armadillos.
You've already given up quizzing me.
Yeah, I have. All right, here's a tough one. Ready?
Yeah.
Carnivora.
Oh boy, yeah. Wouldn't that include? Does it include both like canines and felines?
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
Rodentia.
Oh, rodents. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I know Chiroptera.
There you go. That's
Okay.
one. Bats.
Yeah, bats. Yeah.
Lagomorpha. I know you know
Oh, rabbits and
Yep.
hares and stuff.
that. And picus.
Yeah. Oh, pikas. Ooh, do you know what I just watched? Oh, I'm thinking of Puka. Do you know the movie I'm talking about?
No.
It's this old movie. This guy walks around. It's called Harvey. It's from like 1950.
Oh, yeah, with Jimmy Stewart.
Yeah, yeah, with Jimmy Stewart. He's got this invisible friend, the Puka, who's a rabbit.
rabbit.
Yeah, okay.
You watched it?
Yeah,
Good for you.
well, because it's one of Lynn's favorite movies from when she was a kid.
All right.
And then we watched half of it a long time ago. Then I had a lot of time to kill on a flight, so I decided, I was like, oh, I'm only 57 minutes into this thing. I got to finish this movie.
You want to see a good old movie?
Yeah.
Watch Witness for the Prosecution.
Witness for the Prosecution.
Excellent. It's based on Agatha Christie.
Okay.
It takes a little while to get going, but the last 15 minutes
Yeah.
blows you away.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to check it out. I'm kind of a sucker for those type of movies. Like any Audrey Hepburn movie,
Oh,
I just
yeah,
get
yeah.
sucked into. I think it's that weird made-up accent that actors had back in the day. You know, that weird
content-
Hollywood accent.
The Continental accent.
Yeah. Oh, I just something about it. Yeah. All right.
man.
So I guess back to the
Back to-
podcast.
So there's one more. This is the Cetartiodactyla, which are the even-toed ungulates.
Oh, okay. Okay.
All right. So those are the 9 mammalian orders that exhibit some type of reproductive
God,
delay.
I think I scored like a 40% on that. So,
Yeah.
or maybe less. I don't know.
So we should say that the distribution of delays among these groups, it is complex. For example, delays in marsupials, they're believed to have evolved from a single origin, whereas with bats, it appears to have multiple origins for all 3 types of delays. Okay, so we're talking about delayed fertilization, implantation, and then development. They all evolved independently among bats.
I was about to ask if these 3 systems are related to each other, or does implantation, is that totally separate in all groups
Right.
from
I think it depends on
okay.
groups.
Got it. Okay.
When we talk about carnivora, delays might have been the ancestral state that it was lost in recent species.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Yep.
Okay, so let's talk about carnivora because that is the best studied.
Got it.
So out of all the species, 68 of them have delayed implantation, 123 don't, and then there's 71 species left. And those 71 species, they just haven't been studied.
Yeah.
To look, do they have delayed implantation or other kinds of reproductive delays?
Right, so they're kind of an unknown.
Right, but they're a good group to study, this paper said, because of both the absence and the presence of delays within this group.
Okay,
So
yeah.
it makes them a good group to look at. But we should mention that reproductive delays are not just something mammals do. So other animals and even plants are known to have periods of reproductive diapause
Okay.
between fertilization and their offspring emerging. So, and whether that could be sprouting, hatching, or birth, depending on what kind of animal you are.
Should we say what diapause is?
We're going to talk about it.
Oh,
Hang
okay,
on.
yeah.
So, folks think of seeds going dormant. That could be a type of reproductive diapause.
Okay.
Female insects storing sperm, or birds laying eggs at different times, but then those eggs hatch at the same time.
A lot of invertebrates do it too. They kind of dry up into a weird,
That's
like diapause-like state.
diapause.
Yeah.
Now, I'm glad you mentioned that because in the last episode, we kind of talked about this. I defined diapause as a period of suspended development in an insect, other invertebrate, or mammal embryo, especially during unfavorable environmental conditions. So that's what you just mentioned.
Oh, well, you know what I just mentioned? It didn't have to do with development, though.
Right.
Oh,
So
okay.
there's diapause and then there's reproductive diapause.
Okay, got it.
And that's the point I wanted to make. Here we're focusing on mammal embryo development.
Yeah.
And some further research that I looked at, it said diapause, it's a mechanism used to survive unfavorable environmental conditions.
Right.
Like temperature extremes or drought, right? Reduced food availability.
Yep.
It's most often observed in the life stages of
like Daphnia, little aquatic
Insects.
invertebrates. Yeah, I was just thinking,
Arthropods.
or arthropods. Yeah.
Especially insects.
Yeah, like when you have these like seasonal pools, sometimes you'll have a bunch of these invertebrates completely alive and surviving, but they're totally in a suspended animation state until that little divot in the ground fills up with water. They reactivate. Is that the technical term?
Reactivate. Sure.
Yeah.
It's almost like hibernation, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's almost very similar.
So embryonic diapause occurs in over 130 species of mammals. All right?
Okay.
Possibly.
Now, how many mammals are there?
Stop. I don't know. And it kept coming across, they kept saying possibly even in humans. But
what?
yeah, I know. And all of these references, when you try to click on the reference, it just kind of leads to these research dead ends where there's just like a mention in this paper that's then mentioned in another paper, but I really couldn't find any concrete evidence beyond these anecdotal kind of things happening.
Right.
And it also can happen in certain fish species. So we should say that reproductive delays.
I would love to have some type of like official. Obviously the records would be anonymous, but it would be really, really cool to see like a pregnancy, like pregnancy time distribution, to see like what's the shortest time that people have, what's the longest time, and what's the average. Because obviously the average is it's like 40 weeks or something, and then or something like that, 40, 41,
9 months,
something like that. Yeah, and then. It'd be interesting if some people have gone much beyond that and had healthy babies. I would like to see the healthy birth, so not like a premature birth or something, but where the child was totally finely developed and all that.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so just to see, I don't know, because maybe that would be some evidence if it was further along, like, the baby was perfectly normal, but it took 15 weeks or something, or a few weeks extra,
Right.
Yeah, 50 weeks instead of 40, whatever. Yeah. And then we're like, it was delayed implantation by 10 weeks.
Now, these type of delays, they are less common in viviparous animals.
Oh, interesting. So sharks are viviparous, aren't they? So the young develop.
What are viviparous? People might not know.
I think vivipary is when the young kind of develop inside the parent.
Live birth.
Yeah, it's live birth. Because I know that I think the baby sharks just swim out of the mother shark.
So vivus means living, and parous means giving birth or bearing.
Wait a second. Am I thinking of a different term? Do sharks have something special about theirs that is different than what humans do?
So there are some oviparous animals, like snakes. These are the animals that lay eggs, where the hatching takes place internally.
Oh, got it. Maybe that's what I'm thinking for sharks.
Yeah. So we're going to have to
make
an episode note on this.
Right. Yeah. It would be interesting to know, because like I said, guys, I'm not prepared. I'm going to get something right by mistake or look stupid. So those are the only two options for me.
So let's just call it, we're just exchanging ignorance here.
Yeah. I should say look ignorant. I don't like using stupid. I think it's a bad word.
All right, but why do we care? Why do delays matter? Let's think past the obvious point that delaying fertilization, implantation, these are going to alter the timing of subsequent events, obviously like birth. But what's more interesting is since these delays lengthen the period over which reproduction occurs, it's possible that they're a vehicle for sexual selection. So tell us in 20 words or less, what is sexual selection?
So it's just where there's certain traits that they might not give you like a competitive advantage outside of the fact that a mate is more likely to want to have offspring with you.
Right. So I'm thinking of these birds like peacocks.
Yeah.
With the cocks have these crazy feather displays.
Right.
It's not really going to help them survive and get food, but it's going to help them get a mate.
In fact, that one might be an example of runaway selection.
Right.
Because you would imagine that with these really showy peacocks, they would probably be at a disadvantage in terms of being pretty easy prey.
Right. So these delays, they could be a vehicle for sexual selection, and specifically, post-copulatory sexual selection.
Oh, that makes so much sense, though. They're like, the dad just books it. Well, no thanks. Yep. Or if the dad sticks around, or whatever it's supposed to do, depending on the species, then it's like, I'll implant this.
Or not.
Yeah.
So when we look at the delays under this lens, delays can allow sperm competition and female manipulation of fertilization. And that's what we talked about, cryptic female choice, where females can actually choose whether to implant certain sperm or not.
Interesting.
It's almost like the wildlife version of the morning after pill, right? You realize you made a horrible mistake. You're like, nope, not going to happen. So a good example of this is delayed implantation. It increases the time frame during which sperm and ejaculates from various males might interact. So that's sperm competition, right? Or when females could manipulate and select sperm. During delayed implantation, there could be processes that select among zygotes, allowing some to implant and others to be rejected.
Whoa.
I mean, it's really crazy when you think about it.
Yeah.
So these delays, they give us an ideal opportunity to ask, some specific questions about female versus male control of sexual selection. Because I just think that kind of the traditional view is when it comes to sexual
Female
selection.
choice.
No, well, female choice.
So female
right.
choice is typically what you think of when you think of sexual
Right.
selection.
Because the males are putting on the show, right?
Yeah, I think of it
Typically.
like in birds and
Right.
even with, well, I was about to say with mammals, but when you think about like a lion, like a pride or whatever, is that what they're called?
Yeah.
Where there's like one male and just a ton of females. So that's not female choice, is it? Or did the group of females decide who's the strongest?
I don't know.
I always thought it was the males fought among each other and then the winner of that or something. I don't,
Was king of
honestly,
the pride.
I just have this romantic view of what happens with lions. Like I'm just thinking there's the Lion King, right?
Right.
And he's the strongest one or whatever. But
Well, I would say for most people, especially in North America, their knowledge of wildlife comes directly from Disney movies. Right?
right. Yeah.
So as we were saying, fertilization may be mostly where male competitive strategies dominate, right? Because they're competing. It is female choice.
Sure.
But there's a lot of male competition going on.
Well, yeah, because you haven't hit the finish line, I guess, in terms of passing on your genes to the next generation.
Right.
Just by copulation, you got to get a little bit past that.
And then delayed development can provide a chance for females to then further manipulate events. Now, we mentioned cryptic female choice. Cryptic just means you can't see it. It's going to be going on internally.
So some well-known cryptids might be like Bigfoot. What are those little rod things that fly around caves? They don't exist, but no, you never heard of these rods? No, I don't know. I remember I was watching a cryptid show and they were talking about it. A dire wolf or something might be another cryptid.
Well, setting that aside, I did see the best advice on a hiking page on Facebook the other day. It said, Bigfoot leaves no trace, and so should you.
Nice.
I thought that was good.
Yeah.
So the last thing I'll say about this paper is the researchers said, we believe that reproductive delays are an underappreciated source of natural variation in reproductive physiology, and the investigation of these could allow important insights into cryptic female choice or sperm competition. So more research needed there.
And if we could genetically engineer humans to be able to do this, that'd be so cool.
You can. Afterwards, you're sitting there and you're looking at her, and she's staring off, and you're thinking, what are you doing? She's doing cryptic female choice.
Or afterwards, you're like, so I'm going to vote for so-and-so. And they're like, whoa. I'm cryptically not choosing you.
All right. Before we totally go off the rails.
Wait, I have something important to ask.
What?
So, obviously, when we talk about these things, we generally try to be careful about what's being controlled and what's not being controlled. Obviously, the female's not going like, oh, gotta get rid of this one, or like what's happening like we don't know. Obviously, these are non-human animals. We can't know what's going on in their minds. Obviously, they don't think using words like us. And but even if it was a phenomenon that happened in humans, I think we'd have a really hard time understanding how this decision ends up happens. Yeah.
And I did not look into the actual physiology.
Oh, I don't think I'd be surprised if anyone even has like a good guess as to what causes this choice to happen.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you had anything extra.
No,
Yeah.
so I'm going to write that down as another thing we need to add
Yeah.
to our list. Now, as I was saying, before we totally go off the rails,
Yeah.
I think this would be a good time to talk about our episode sponsor, Gumleaf USA.
Yes. Good thinking. I'm actually thinking maybe we should find a place. Maybe get a little bit closer to a tree where it's like to block the wind or something.
Sure. So let's walk a little bit.
Yeah.
And we can talk about Gunleaf. We'll try to get out of the wind that's cropped up here.
Okay. Cool.
So, if you're a regular listener, you know Gumleaf is a longtime supporter of the Field Guides.
Oh yeah.
So this company offers Wellington-style natural rubber boots for men and women They're perfect for birding, herping, for hunting, for farm work, or just standing on the sidelines of the soccer field. And I can say over the past year, I've used my boots to wade through a freezing cold creek during a January thaw, to search vernal pools for salamanders and amphibian eggs, and most importantly, to protect myself from ticks.
Nice.
And I do have to say that since I've gotten my boots, I have not found a single tick on myself.
But anecdotally, though,
I know, just kidding.
no, anecdotally though, didn't you say that maybe Linda or Violet was out with you and they had ticks or something, but you didn't? I thought you were telling me one time, and I was like, oh, this is a perfect anecdote that even though it's untrustworthy, it would be nice to bring up. But no, yeah.
It'd be good to throw in there.
Yeah, right.
If it were true. So I'm going to say, that is true. So Gumleaf does have a factory in Europe where they've been making these rubber boots for over 80 years. They're really well designed with the features found in boots that cost twice as much. They're made from 85% natural rubber, and that's why they can flex over 1 million times without a crack. Competitive brands typically use a higher mix of plastic and synthetics with their rubber, so it's likely that if you buy a pair of less expensive boots, you'd probably have to replace them well before your Gumleaf boots wear out. So with their neoprene cushion liner and Vibram sole, you have comfort, durability, and quality. That's the hallmark of Gumleaf USA boots.
Nice. I'm also thinking that they're missing their opportunity for, they could slap a few things on there, like non-GMO, organic, vegan, gluten-free, you know. I don't know if any of those are true,
They're
but
gluten-free boots.
gluten-free boots.
What's the website, Steve?
It's gumleafusa.com.
And we will there's a special offer code that we don't remember right now.
Nope.
Where Gumleaf USA will give free shipping. We'll put that in the episode notes.
Yeah, it'll just be a simple little link in the notes.
It is free shipping to Patreon supporters, I believe.
Yes.
So, let's move behind these trees over here.
Yep.
Before we get into the next study, I just want to talk about hibernation a little bit, because it's at this point where I'm going to leave behind talking about reproductive delays, generally speaking,
Yeah.
and get into black bears.
Okay.
So, I'm going to give a shout out to our hibernation episode, our hibernation episode.
That was like episode 3 or 4, right?
Yeah, it was early on.
Yeah.
So I know when I was being trained in natural history, I was told that bears are not true hibernators.
Okay, yeah.
Not like a woodchuck, jumping mice around here, some
Right.
of our bats.
Because everything fits into a nice category, and that's the one you have to be careful with.
But when we were taught, the bear was really lumped with what were termed the deep sleepers, the skunk and the raccoon. Those animals that sleep for extended periods but still will wake up and feed.
It's just that their body processes don't drop as severely as all the other ones, and they can wake up more easily, right?
Right, but don't you agree that it's wrong to put bears with those, because raccoons and skunks still eat, they still defecate, whereas bears do go into a hibernation type state.
Right, so even though bears don't have that drop in physiological processes as much as other true hibernators, they're still kind of like in that true hibernation state where you can like slap a bear around. Don't do this, guys. You can slap a bear around and it won't wake up,
Well, they'll get up a lot quicker than, say, a woodchuck.
But I still think it takes doesn't it still take 12 hours or something?
They can be groggy.
Okay.
Yes, but there have been instances, and I'll get into, I have some good links to recommend to people for when researchers thought bears were out and they were not.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Because you always see, I don't want to say you always, but you see those shows on TV where, some guy goes in with a camera, he's with a crew, they're checking on the pups or whatever you call baby bears, and they're, the mom's asleep, and then they put them back, and then they, they're on their way.
Right.
I think they tag them or something, then they move on. But that would be horrifying if a groggy mom bear just, popped up.
My point with all that is hibernation in bears is not as simple as
like literally everything
makes it out to be.
Right.
So go listen to that episode.
Yeah.
I'm not going to delve into a lot of the specifics of hibernation here, but a lot of what I'm going to be talking about happens during that hibernation period, quote unquote hibernation period. So the first study I looked at, this was in 2011. So let's see if you know these terms. This looked at American black bear estrus and parturition in the Allegheny Mountains of Virginia. So, Steve, can you mansplain what estrus is?
No.
So,
does it have anything to do with estrus?
It's mating time.
Really?
So
That's estrus?
When a dog comes into heat, they're in estrus.
Okay, so I just took a scientific writing course, and they begged us not to use words like that.
Really?
Like if there's a simpler word to get your point across, they
Sure.
say go for that.
Right.
But don't make it inaccurate. But and stick with one term that's easy that everyone knows, and stick with that. I hate asterisks.
So what is parturition?
Parturition.
I did not know. I had to look this up.
I have no idea.
It's birth.
Oh,
That's
okay.
all it is.
Parturition. I don't even know what the roots.
Parturition.
I don't know what the root words for those are.
But if you look into studies on delayed implantation and parturition comes up a lot.
it's just they're weird pet words that they like.
So
yeah.
when I use that word parturition, folks, because I'm going to be looking at my notes here, just know it's birth. All right. This paper started off by talking about how researching reproduction in a lot of animals, it's relatively simple for species that reproduce frequently and have offspring that are easy to observe. But American black bears don't meet this criteria, right? So what's the Latin name for Ursus americanus? Oh, I just gave
I mean, I knew it, but Ursus americanus, yeah.
So did you know that some people are trying to get the black bear, the scientific name, renamed as Ursus america?
No.
No, I'm just kidding.
Why? It doesn't follow the right rules anymore. Ursus ends in a US. It can't be. The specific epithet can't end in an A. This is serious business, Bill.
It's the most patriotic bear.
Yeah.
Ursus america. So
Ursus america.
that's right. They have relatively slow reproductive rates, and they have to be studied for multiple years or even decades to draw valid inferences. And to make matters worse, these guys, as you just mentioned, they give birth in secluded dens, and that prevents long-distance observation.
Yeah, they're not a model species. Let's just say that.
And if entered, it can involve considerable risk.
Yeah.
Folks, look up, just type into Google, "We thought this bear was out cold. We were mistaken." That's a good article. And then you can also look up Outdoor Hub, grizzly attacks bear researchers. So those are two good links. We'll put those in the notes.
And I think you have a blog. I haven't had estrus in a year. It's a really sad entry.
All right. Did you know that most bear studies, those have been carried out on bears in captivity?
No, I had no idea.
Yeah. So there's not a lot of information about reproduction in free-ranging bears. But this study, which started in the
free range. Yeah, I can get
Yeah.
behind that.
this
Sorry,
study-
guys. I'm going to be one big distraction this whole episode.
This was called the Cooperative Allegheny Bear Study. This went on for 10 years. It was conducted in 2 study areas in Western Virginia, not West Virginia, but Western Virginia. And it started in 1994. It started out as a 5-year study. So these were in the Allegheny Mountains. Now, I had to look this up. The Allegheny Mountains are actually along that western edge of Virginia. They're part of the Appalachian Mountains.
Okay.
Now, near us, we have Allegheny State Park. That's actually named for the Allegheny Plateau.
Okay.
All right, so the Allegheny Mountains, that section of the Appalachians that are down near Virginia, as they rise up, then they top out into the Allegheny Plateau, which extends to the southern tier of New York State, south of where we live.
Okay.
All right, so the objectives of this study was to look at 2 relatively unexplored areas of black bear reproductive ecology. The timing of and possible influences on estrus and parturition of American black bears.
Ugh.
I know. So, as part of the study, they caught bears in snares and in traps. Now, sedate the bears, they used dart pistols, blowpipes, or a jab stick.
So I think in all 3 cases, you have to get so close.
Well, besides the dart pistol, but still.
No, but even the pistol. I mean,
Would you like to be the guy with the jab stick, though? They always give that to the newest research assistant.
Yeah, right.
No, everybody does it this way. So they
Weirdest hazing ever. Yeah.
They aged the bears. I guess I kind of had an idea about this, but do you know about?
I just assumed the teeth or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cementum annuli analysis.
Oh, nope, never heard of it. I've never heard that term ever in my life. But I assume it's the teeth thing.
They look at the teeth and the rings in the teeth.
Okay.
That ages the bears.
Yeah.
And then they also used radio collars. And these guys were thorough. They also did hard mast surveys. So what's mast for people that don't know?
What,
You know.
are you talking about like fruiting
Acorns.
blooms?
Yeah,
Okay,
like nuts, stuff like that.
Oh, so when it's a hard fruit,
Yes.
because acorns are hard. Okay.
So Every year, they examined selected trees and quantified the mean number of acorns per 10 limbs on a tree. And they used this index to look at the annual autumn hard mast availability. These guys were thorough.
I've never heard of this before. I wonder, I guarantee it's a normal thing because this isn't what I work in.
Right.
But I've never heard that. That's so specific.
That's cool, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to look at their results. Now, this is something I did not know, and I felt like, why don't I know this?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know when bear mating season is?
Man.
I don't. I didn't. I knew they gave birth during hibernation.
How big of a range is it? Do you know?
What do you mean?
Like, when do they mate?
Oh, like
is
how
it
many months?
Yeah, like a long period of time that they mate?
About 3 months.
Oh, so what? We have like a 1 in 4 chance of getting it right?
There you go.
Let's just say May to July.
You're right.
Yes.
Females begin coming into estrus in late May. It peaks in early July. So think around the 4th of July, bears are like, woohoo!
Yeah.
America!
America. They're shooting off fireworks.
That's right.
Estrus every day.
And then it gradually declines through August.
Yeah.
The birth dates, they hypothesized, the researchers, that variation would probably result from maternal age, litter size, or nutritional stress if there was hard mast failure. Now, another reason this study's so great, to get the timing of...
Hard mast failure.
All right. This is what Steve's thinking about.
That's when estrus doesn't happen.
The timing of estrus, they based this on, listen to this,
Yeah.
326 bears and 430 observations of those bears. So,
Okay.
pretty good data set.
Oh, but these bears aren't in the wild?
No, these bears are in the wild. So they're
Then how do they know that they're doing estrus?
So they're looking for indicators of estrus on bears, female bears that were trapped. So this includes
They're trapped.
vulval swelling, vascularization, and discharge.
Okay.
So also what the newest research assistants had to do.
Yeah, right. That's what the first years are doing.
That's
yeah.
right. So they estimated birth dates for 383 cubs from 150 litters. In the bears in this study, they ranged from 3 years old to 24 years old. Average lifespan for a black bear, again, didn't know this, 18 years.
I was about to say, I have no idea. I was going to guess 10 years. That was going to be my guess.
18.
I don't know.
The record in the wild is 39 years.
Whoa.
In captivity was 44.
Man or woman bear? I think that's the wrong term to use. We don't talk about man and women, men and women, animals.
So this is one point, I love that they put this in the study. They observed one anomalous birth date from a 24-year-old bear whose single cub was estimated to have been born on February 18th. Now, that was much later than the average.
Right.
Because both the age class of this bear, 5 years older than any other female, and the associated litter's birth date, 14 days later than any other litter, were severe outliers in the data set. They excluded them from the calculations. So I just love that they made that point.
So you said February 12th. That was late?
Yeah, so I'm going to tell you. So for the remaining 149 litters,
Yeah.
the estimated birth date ranged from December 26th to February 4th, with a mean of January 17th. So today is the 19th. That's
Yeah.
why I said,
Right.
like right now is when a lot of baby black bears are being born.
I was thinking about that, and you know what? That's the type of fact, like that's the little factoid I like the most,
Yeah.
because it's so nice to know all the mysterious hidden things that are happening around you. Like what's happening right now? What is this animal doing at
So-
this moment?
In this study, 91% of the births occurred in January.
Okay.
Yeah, and the peak was from mid to mid-late January.
Mhm.
So what caused this variation? That's what they were trying to find out.
Yeah.
So they analyzed, there was a mast failure in 97, virtually no nuts.
Right.
And they figured, okay, that's going to affect cubs that were born in the winter of 98.
Mm-hmm.
They actually found there was little effect on birth date
Oh.
when compared with all other non-mast failure years. Now that just, they're talking about birth date, not how the cubs did.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So you'd figure...
Because for all we know, they're underweight. They're, and I'm
Right.
sure that would have a big effect on their survival.
But the crazy part is they also found no effect on litter size.
That's interesting. Okay.
1 to 2 cubs versus 3 to 4 cubs.
Right.
And they even looked at 2 or 3-way interactions among factors and found no effect. So that 1 year of mast failure didn't seem to have much of an effect at all.
Yeah.
They did find that younger females had later birth dates. Not sure why, than older bear. All right, so a big question here is, why is bear breeding season in early summer. So remember we said it started in late May, peaks in early July.
Yeah.
So why does it happen then? Timing of estrus did not differ between the two study areas, and the patterns that they looked at, the patterns that they saw, they have been documented in previous studies that took place in Pennsylvania, northern Mexico, Tennessee, Idaho, Montana, Ontario, and even in Alaska. So they're basically saying we can be pretty sure that these breeding season peaks are happening really throughout the black bear's nearly continental range.
Okay.
Okay, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah. Considering it's not the same everywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
They did say photoperiod, so the length of daylight, that's often related to breeding season timing for a lot of mammals, and this appears to be true for black bears as well.
They're solar powered. That's what it is.
No, they can just see what's going on. Right? There's more daylight. So a study from 2007 proposed that the breeding season for bears, it evolved in response to seasonal food limitations that actually were from back in the Pliocene and Pleistocene glaciations, and they're just persisting today.
Oh, so they're thinking it might be like a remnant
Right.
evolution.
Right.
And okay, interesting. So
And
what would be the driver back then? Like what were you thinking?
I didn't get into that.
No.
I don't know.
Okay.
I didn't look at that paper.
Because I was wondering if they were thinking it was selection or what.
Yeah, I don't know.
Especially for species that don't have the largest populations, and I'm thinking maybe bears, they're so big. I don't know how huge their populations are. Often you don't really get
As
a
opposed to
high
other
level of
stuff.
selection in small populations like that. So
And there was a paper in '87 that suggested that black bear breeding season occurs in summer because there's constraints on either end. So in spring, you have den emergence. So you have these bears coming out. Some have cubs, some are not, but they're kind of not in a good place to be worrying about reproduction at that time and mating.
they got to load back up, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And then in the fall, on the other end of the summertime, they got to worry about autumn hyperphagia.
No, hyperphagia. That's when you just gorge yourself.
Right. So
Yeah.
Getting
I
ready
do.
for
I
the
just do
winter.
hyperphagia whenever. So.
No, you're looking pretty good.
Oh, thank you.
So there was finally a paper in 1990 that proposed mate competition theory, because they're saying males need to be in optimal condition for mates, and that's going to happen when high quality resources are easily available. And in early summer, it sounds kind of sad, but that's when you have a peak in neonatal ungulate prey,
Oh.
fawns,
Yeah.
yeah, and other ungulate babies. Yeah.
Have you ever found a fawn before?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
many
Just
times.
people who like it happens.
How can you forget it? Right?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. No, I mean, I found a dead one one time
Oh.
at Zor Valley.
I don't know if I've ever
I mean,
found a dead one.
I definitely, I see him. I think it was dead. I don't know. It was like out cold, and for all I know, it was either sleeping very soundly or was just gone.
And then you took it home and made boots out of it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's the only responsible thing to do. I couldn't let him go to waste.
All right, we're joking.
And don't go looking for fawns to make boots out.
No. So these theories, all of these theories, they're not mutually exclusive, and really a combination of factors may play a role, but we just don't know.
Coward.
Right. And then they got into the discussion of the timing of birth date. And I mentioned that younger bears seem to give birth an average of 12 days later than older bears, but they're really not sure about why this is happening.
Do you know what's funny? As human beings, it is sort of weird to think about a whole species that everyone basically has the same birthday. Every member of your species essentially has the same birthday, right?
It's
Isn't that
true.
sort of weird?
That is weird.
When you think of humans, and it's like roughly distributed throughout the year.
Right, but most wild animals, if you think about it.
Yeah.
right?
Well, I guess
Especially around here.
But I also assume that if humans were less advanced than we are today, maybe it would be more. There would be more of a peak in certain times of the year. So
maybe it'll happen.
yeah, hey, yeah. I mean, we might go back to those dark days.
So I just want to say again here, folks, we've got to point out that bears, they're the only mammals with delayed implantation, gestation, birth, and lactation that all takes place during hibernation, when they don't eat, drink, urinate, or defecate in any meaningful way for several months. And they only survive solely on their stored energy reserves.
Bill says in any significant way, because I think it's like a teaspoon of urine or something.
During hibernation.
Yeah, which doesn't even seem worth saying in the
just
first
like
place.
what leaks out.
Yeah, right.
Those of you that are over 40 know what I'm talking about when you're sleeping.
But also, I do want to say the one interesting thing that I am going to give a little bit of a spoiler for from the bear hibernation episode that we did is that I think the vast majority of the resources that are stored up for bears are used during the periods of time that they actually wake up from hibernation during the winter. Yep. So the time that they're just knocked out, the time that they're sleeping, so the time that they're out, they're not using almost any of their resources, and that's really just for when they wake up and there's nothing to eat.
Right.
And then they'll go back into hibernation.
And just one more shout out to that hibernation episode. Like, I was just blown away by the beautiful complexity of hibernation. It's not just like most people think, where they go to sleep for 6 months and they wake up and just go about their business. There's crazy stuff going on.
Yeah.
All right, so let me give you a couple statements. Tell me if these make sense.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to give you a couple questions at this point. If environmental conditions are good in the fall,
yeah,
do you think bears would then delay hibernation? If things were good, do you think that they'd say, all right, I'm going to stay up, eat a little more food, keep going?
Man, I almost feel like they would, but they wouldn't push it very much. I think there's probably some wiggle room, but they wouldn't push it too much. That would be my guess. Because a lot of plants are pretty seasonal, so I have to imagine that the plants are just going to keep producing, because I think that there's a lot of plants that go based on photoperiod rather than...
yeah, but birds migrate regardless of...
yeah. So, yeah, it's such a hard question to answer. So I'll say final answer and then tell me why I'm wrong or whatever.
Well, I'm not going to give you an answer just yet.
No, okay.
So what do you think? Are they going to stay awake?
Well, that's what I said. I said I think they might stay awake for a little bit longer, but I don't think that would extend indefinitely. Like this pretty warm season that we had, even though it was a little bit nicer, I don't think that pushed them too much further than they would have otherwise. That would be my guess.
My second question is, during hibernation, do you think a bear in good condition would give birth earlier during hibernation or later during hibernation?
Shoot, I don't know. Later, if anything. No, earlier?
It's hard, right?
It's so hard.
Yeah.
I mean,
because you might think earlier because you're thinking, all right, well, then they're going to give their young more time.
But the babies don't hibernate, right?
No, they suckle.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
So I don't think earlier gives a huge advantage, because obviously suckling's going to make the mom go through resources more quickly.
Yeah, but it'll give the cubs a chance to get bigger.
Yeah, but if it's significantly earlier than they would have otherwise, I still feel like they're pretty helpless other than suckling. So for some reason, my intuition tells me that you wouldn't birth the babies earlier, unless you never know. Maybe this is what I don't know. On average, let's say when the mother normally comes out of the hibernation area, the cave, whatever, with the babies, could she have hypothetically kept feeding them on her own for a few more weeks, a month, whatever? I don't know that.
I don't know.
So if that is the case, that they could have kept going, but now that it's nice enough out, they can go out and just forage. But they choose to forage over suckling because that's just the smarter thing to do at that point. If that's the case, then yeah, maybe they could start earlier. I don't know.
All right, well, we're going to get into it.
So that's me rambling about, and not being able to answer a question clearly.
So in 2014, there was a study that looked at factors affecting date of implantation, parturition, that's birth.
Thank you.
And den entry estimated from activity and body temperature. Now, I should say that this is in brown bears.
Wait, den entry, is that another word for estrus, or?
No, so den entry is nice. It's just when they enter the den.
A literal den. Okay.
Yes. All right.
Right.
Now, one thing that seems to be well known among bear researchers is that bears need a minimum amount of body mass and fat prior to hibernation to reproduce. So it seems like 19 to 20% body fat. If a bear has less than that when they enter hibernation, it's not going to happen. They're not going to reproduce. Now, several studies have shown a strong correlation between a female's body condition in the fall and reproductive success. That makes sense. It's generally accepted that the number, the size, and the survival of bear cubs emerging from winter dens depends on the condition of the mother when she enters the den. Now, with delayed implantation in mind, which factors determine the date of implantation and birth? Because remember, they're mating back in the early summer, but when they enter the den, they have not implanted the egg yet.
Right.
Okay. So
How quick of a pregnancy is it?
So it takes about 60 days. So they usually implant around December 1st.
Yeah.
And then sometime mid to late January,
Right.
usually the baby's born. Okay? The babies can be multiple.
Mm-hmm.
So in this study, they found that older females, they started hibernation earlier. And the start of hibernation was earlier, listen to this, when environmental conditions had been positive.
That's the opposite of what I thought.
So if conditions are good, they usually will not stay up longer. Basically, they know they have a threshold, and when they hit that threshold,
Yeah.
they're like, all right, I'm going in.
Wow, so they're like, wow, everything's so good right now. I could probably eat so much more. Good night.
Yeah.
To use the bad analogy
I'm
again.
good.
Yeah.
There's some ideas about why they do that. One study suggested that pregnant American black bears, so this study about brown bears referenced this one about black bears,
Yeah.
they enter the den after they'd stored enough fat reserves for survival and reproduction. They don't have to be active when food is less abundant. So they don't want to take that risk. So what about birth dates? Those were later when environmental conditions had been positive. So the moms are like holding off. To put it another way, the date of hibernation prior to giving birth was longer when environmental conditions had been positive. So they enter the den, they start hibernation, and if things are good, it's like there's a longer time before they give birth.
Wow, okay.
Okay? So what are factors that are influencing this?
Sure.
Because the date of denning doesn't really correlate with the date of birth, they suggest that other factors than the start of denning trigger implantation. Maybe it's the mother's body condition. Now,
I could see that. Part of me could see that if it's a physiological change in the bear that triggers the drive towards hibernation, maybe as soon as they hit a threshold of a certain fat count, a fat percentage or something, then they're like, whoa, I gotta hibernate now, like if it's something like that, I could see it, if it's just like a trigger.
Now, this is where this study, I questioned whether including it.
Yeah.
Because they say, is it maternal body condition that's triggering implantation, and then that's going to lead to a certain birth date? But in this study, they captured bears and they inserted sensors for body temperature and sensors that were going to say whether the bear was moving or not.
Yeah.
Because that's how they kind of figured that the bear was giving birth.
Okay.
But they didn't gather information about body mass or fat content in autumn. They captured the bears in spring, put in these sensors, and then that's it. So they basically said, we didn't capture the bears in autumn or winter. We had no info about maternal body mass or fat content, so we can't say.
That's so. I was actually about to ask you about that, but then then my mind started swirling all over the place, and I was like, well, if they're just getting to the body fat amount, or like, how do I know how much more? Like, are they beyond that fat amount, or did they just hit the fat amount and then hibernate, or do they go well beyond it?
No,
it's tough. Yeah.
Folks, some of you may be thinking, whoa, this is confusing. And I kind of went back and forth last night when I was going through my notes, what to put in and take out, but I really wanted to get across that this is super complex. There's a lot of factors at play. There's a lot we don't know. Previous studies on captive brown bears have shown that larger females give birth earlier during the winter.
Okay.
But in this study, now listen to this. See if you can stay with me on this.
Yeah.
They said that their study found the opposite, that larger bears gave birth later. So they were wondering, well, does it have something to do with the fact that in previous studies they were captive brown bears, so maybe free-ranging females might budget their energy resources differently?
Yeah.
But listen to this. They based this idea that larger bears gave birth later on the fact that there were favorable environmental conditions, so those bears must have been larger. Because remember, they didn't weigh the bears in this study.
Oh, right.
And I'm like, okay, that does make sense, but that's kind of a jump. You don't have the data to back that up. Right?
And when was this study?
This was in 2014.
Okay.
And I was going to say, if the researchers are actually out there listening to this and I'm misreading it, let us know. But this took place in Sweden, so I don't think they're listening. I also wanted to keep the study in because they asked a really good question. They said, is early hibernation due to disturbance? Are bears going into dens early not because environmental conditions are good, so they've reached a threshold,
right,
but because they're trying to limit disturbance? Are they trying to avoid disturbance? So they said, with this in mind, it would be important to compare the timing of hibernation and birth with brown bear populations living in areas with low human activities during autumn.
Okay.
Which
So that was the that's how they define disturbance, as human disturbance?
Human disturbance.
Okay.
Yeah, and I just thought that was, man, that's another factor that you might not
Right.
even think about.
Yeah.
All right, so I have one more study to share.
Okay.
And this one is from 2012, and it's titled Maternal Condition Determines Birth Date and Growth of Cubs. So this is where we get a little back into delayed implantation. The researchers here, they hypothesized that delaying implantation provides flexibility in the timing of birth so that pregnant females can keep track of environmental cues or their body condition to optimize their reproductive outcome.
Okay.
So, and obviously, folks, as Steve already said, we don't believe that the bears are thinking like humans.
Yeah.
Right? But this is the best way we can term it, that bears are keeping track of these environmental cues.
Mm-hmm.
So this study tested whether females in superior condition gave birth earlier, and then they would lactate longer in the den than females in poorer condition. So in other words, cubs born to fat mothers are older at den emergence than those born to lean mothers. I feel weird saying fat mothers.
I was.
I'm taking this from the study.
Yeah.
We're talking about bears here. They won't be offended.
I got a little triggered though.
I know. I did too reading it. I'm like, it doesn't sound right. It sounds wrong.
Was that is that a quote? Fat mother?
It is.
Wow. Okay.
And then also, females in better condition, they hypothesize, produce more milk or higher quality milk that will speed the growth of cubs compared to cubs produced by leaner females. Again, trigger warning. Cubs born to fat mothers are better nourished than those born to lean mothers. Okay? Now, we should say this one was done on captive bears.
Okay.
And it was done on brown bears rather than black bears.
Yeah.
So in this study, brown bears that were fat gave birth earlier than those that were lean. And cubs nursing from fat mothers did grow faster than those nursing from lean mothers. And the combination of an earlier birth date and faster growth by cubs increased the mass of brown bear and polar bear cubs at den emergence. Listen to this, by about 350 grams, that's about 3/4 pounds,
Okay.
for each increase in percent of body fat from the start of hibernation. So
Okay.
to give you some reference here, brown bear cubs on average weigh 4 to 8 pounds at den emergence. 5 is kind of an average. Anything less than 5, their chances of survival aren't good. But the fact that for each percentage of fat that went up, it gave them on average a 3/4 pound increase.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. So they talk about how delayed implantation may have evolved because female fitness of bears increased when there was more time between mating and birthing beyond a normal gestation time.
Mm-hmm.
And that possibly this maximizes female choice or male competition during mating. They ended this just by saying that delayed implantation may allow species to vary the timing of implantation and birth in order to gain female fitness benefits, especially in species that give birth and begin nursing during a prolonged fast, which bears do.
And just my thoughts on it is that I could easily see. I don't like to say easily see evolution of anything because it's such a complex thing, but I could easily see the benefit to not giving birth in September, because that's not a good time to prosper.
Right.
And
I think that it can't happen right at the start of hibernation.
Mm-hmm.
Again, there's so many things that are at play, like what's their percentage of body fat? Could there be a disturbance while they're in the den?
Yeah.
Right? Maybe they're kind of hedging their bets. I'm going to wait as long as I can.
Yeah.
There's just so many factors at play. That's why this is such an interesting topic. And
Right.
folks, there were so many other studies, good studies that I could have included, just didn't have time.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll post some. We haven't posted a lot on social media.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'll start posting some of that stuff because I would like to start posting more. And that leads me to say thanks, folks, to people that have reached out to us through social media,
Yeah.
have kept the faith and not given up on us. So we are trying as best we can to answer those things.
Yeah, and I will say it was so nice to read those. Like, hey guys, hope you guys aren't gone for good. So clearly, it's a double-edged sword. We feel like we're letting you guys down, but also it's so nice to know that people really look forward to the episodes every month. They used to be every month. Hopefully, we'll get back to more of a regular monthly skit thing, but
Don't plan on it.
We'll do our best. Yeah. All right, guys. So we hope you enjoyed the episode. First and foremost, we'd like to thank our growing list of Patreon supporters. So we named the dog Indy, Rob, Pollywog, John, Jessica, Jeff, Goose, Gavin, Esther, Bruce, and especially Rich, Rachel, Orange Julian, Ken, Diane, Daniel, the Hebranks, and Alyssa.
Thank you so much,
Thank
folks.
you guys so much.
If you're interested in becoming a Patreon, you can check us out on patreon.com. But if you're like Steve and you can't afford to donate to a podcast on a regular basis, you can donate to the podcast through PayPal. We have a link on our website. But you can also give us a 5-star review on iTunes, Stitcher, or any other podcatcher. And I do want to thank the people that have given us 5-star reviews since our last episode. Rachel Maria Sunshine, The Purple Fred, ISL 1969, and JJ Helene. And I do have to say that one of these, ISL 1969, it was from a 9-year-old boy named Charlie.
Whoa, nice.
So thanks, Charlie. He really enjoyed it when, during the sharp-shinned hawk episode, you said that you could tell the difference between a sharp-shinned hawk and a Cooper's hawk because the Cooper's hawk would be eating the sharp-shinned hawk.
Oh, yeah.
He loved that.
Nice. And Charlie's parents, we're sorry about this episode if you're listening.
Yeah, sorry about that.
I blame Bill. All right, so if you guys have any hate mail you want to send our way, you can send us an email at thefieldguides@gmail.com. You can follow us on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, or check out our website at thefieldguidespodcast.com.
And parents, we want to remind you, get those kids outside, let them get muddy, let them get dirty, let them get snowy, let them flip over rocks and logs. And even if you don't have kids, get yourself outside, folks.
Yeah, and if you were a new patron this time and we didn't call you out specifically, we'll thank you at the next episode. I know we normally do that. This time we just read a list, but we'll thank you guys specifically next time.
We're thinking of you.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Thanks again for listening, and we will see you soon.
Yep, see you next episode.